Hey now, good morning. Happy Tuesday, because we had yesterday off, Martin Luther King. Hope you guys had a nice holiday. And we're going to get right back into film scoring Tuesday. When we look at a scene and I take out the music, in this particular assignment, it's actually going to be, you're going to be creating music where there was no music originally. So we'll get into that, and it's going to be very exciting. Last week was really a lot of fun with Manhattan Murder Mystery, Woody Allen's iconic, well, it's an iconic in my heart, at least, really fun murder mystery. And that was good, a good, fun jazz score, light suspense that we came up with. So look forward to more work. This is going to be a kind of a different kind of assignment, and we're going to talk about a huge filmmaker and a very important movie that came out in 1962. So today, we'll be talking about Francois Truffaut's Jules and Jim. Jules and Jim, 1962, part of the French New Wave. So bear with me, I'm not just saying these French words to sound smart. Truffaut is the director's name, and in 1962, he comes out with this movie, Jules and Jim. It's a romantic drama film, dramatic film, and that he directed and produced and wrote. He was one of the founders of the French New Wave, and very into the auteur. We've talked about the auteur, meaning the director as sort of the god of the universe of the film that's being put together. He has the vision, he has the actors, we've talked about so many, Scorsese, Woody Allen, Tarantino. When you just say the names, just one name, you immediately in your head say, yep, know that kind of style, because those directors leave their trademarks. Truffaut was one of the first to do that, because studio films in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they were factory made. So they weren't so much like, but by the 60s, pretty much by the 60s, you get film personalities there. And Truffaut was one of the first ones to say, well, the filmmaker should have the vision, the final say, it should be in charge of everything to make it personal, right? Because the French were very into personal films that the Americans, took notice of with John Cassavetes. We did Cassavetes class years ago. He liked that. But then the French also loved American films, Howard Hawks films. So it's cool to see how two countries influenced each other and how they kind of wanted to copy each other, but then go on their own style. So we could get into the history of that, but just kind of to break down what the auteur theory is. It's freeing. The French New Wave has a lot of freeing elements that we take for granted today because, everything is influenced by everything. But if we think of 1962, when this movie comes out, and it's very, very free-spirited and all that stuff. We'll take a look at the trailer and then the scene, of course. 1962, Hollywood is still making epic movies. So West Side Story's out in 1962, Spartacus, El Cid, Lawrence of Arabia, To Kill a Mockingbird. These are all in 1 year. Great movies, but way different than what we're going to take a look at today. Jules and Jim is nothing like that. So it's easy to look at Jules and Jim today and say, oh yeah, it's just kind of like an indie, even though it wasn't film that's in black and white. But it was really innovative to do a movie like that when Hollywood's doing these big epic style movies. So that's what was so freeing about it. And as we'll see, the French New Wave is kind of realistic, intense close-ups sometimes, things that Hollywood would do later, but the French are doing it before. So they kind of reject all these traditional filmmaking techniques of, perfectly composed shots and all that stuff. It's quick editing, it's jump cuts, it's all these things, like I said, that today it's not innovative because people have been doing it for decades and decades, but it was in the 60s. It was completely, to do a jump cut, it looked like, well, that person didn't go to film school, they don't know what they're talking about, and the French are like, screw it. This is how we're doing it. We're going to shoot in the apartments, in my place, we're going to shoot on the cafes, we're going to, there's something very exciting about that. Also the narrative, the stories that they were telling were not American type stories. Americans liked heroes, bad guys, and villains. the French New Wave dealt with relationships, teenagers and prostitutes and drunks and, you know, people of just different everyday people sometimes, you know, kind of, and that existential question of what's the meaning of life and all these kind of things that were much more personal and honest and, you know, kind of raw rather than what was going on in America. So Truffaut's born in 1932 in Paris. So, and he doesn't live that long. Maybe if you have seen him, you've seen him in Close Encounters of the Third Kind because Spielberg put him in there before he had a brain tumor and died in 1984. But this is probably one of his most well-known movies. It's set around World War I. So let's just take a look at the lovely little trailer.
Une femme peut-elle aimer également deux hommes? C'est le thème du chef-d'œuvre de Henri-Pierre Rocher, le sujet du nouveau film de François Truffaut, le réalisateur des 400 coups.
Qui c'est, Jules?
C'est moi,
Et vous?
Jim.
Jim et Jules, alors?
Non, Jules et Jim.
Jules et Jim, deux hommes, deux amis, bouleversés par la même femme.
Vous êtes deux idiots.
Un, deux, oh! Une femme généreuse et sincère, à la recherche d'un bonheur sans jalousie, sans mensonge, sans hypocrisie.
Catherine n'est pas spécialement belle, ni intelligente, ni sincère, mais c'est une vraie femme. Et c'est cette femme que nous aimons.
Cette femme, c'est Jeanne Moreau, la plus grande actrice française, qui vous fera rire et vous fera pleurer.
On a été vraiment heureux tous les deux. Hein?
Mais nous sommes heureux. Enfin, moi, je le suis.
C'est vrai. Oui, on restera toujours ensemble, tous les deux. Comme des petits vieux, avec Sabine et les petits-enfants de Sabine. Garde-moi près de toi.
Dans le tourbillon de la vie, je l'ai revu un soir, aïe aïe aïe, ça fait déjà un fameux bail, ça fait déjà un fameux bail.
Tous ceux qui ont vu Jules et Jim ont été bouleversés par la sincérité, l'originalité et la beauté du nouveau film de François Truffaut.
So it's a love triangle. This is, to do a love triangle is very radical in the 60s. You wouldn't have a Best Picture American film necessarily unless you were really pushing the boundaries. Truffaut's just doing this openly, out in the open, you know, about this love triangle, these bohemian French people. Now it's subtle, but back then it was probably pretty crazy. And possibly part of the reason why I chose this is because a writer said that this scene that we're gonna score, maybe this is a single image that defines what the French New Wave's about. There's something so beautiful about this scene. It's very short. The scene will be, you know, the assignment will be short, but this really, it's interesting that you could, and he didn't know this, of course. It's interesting that you could film a scene and that would become symbolic of, oh, it's this style of filmmaking. It's this, it's something so little can symbolize something huge. So this scene that we're going to be looking at, this race over this bridge, is just a little race in the movie, but that was symbolic of the time, the French New Wave, and that style of filmmaking, and that kind of, I'm trying to think what it's akin to. I mean, there's so many great little things in history that people didn't know they were making history. They were just doing something, and then somehow we snapshotted, we took that and said, this is what it's going to symbolize. So many exciting ideas. Let's take a look at the scene. Here's the deal. The movie has a great score. Georges Delerue, great film composer, and there's a lot of music in it. But for this, one of the biggest scenes in the movie, I don't know why Truffaut doesn't score this. I have no idea why. I was kind of surprised to see when I was going back to watch the movie for you guys that there was no music. We'll talk about that afterwards, and to see, hear your thoughts. So this is the scene as is with no music. So of course the assignment will be you have to come up with some music. But let's take a look at the scene as is that you're going to score.
1, 2, oh.
It's funny because it's such a happy, freeing scene where she cheats, right? She starts first, she outruns them, she wins. It's a very simple, little, fun, playful scene that like I said, came to symbolize the wonderful youth and beauty of the French New Wave, because it doesn't look like a Hollywood movie. This looks like a personal movie. The close-ups, the cuts. It looks like a home movie, perhaps. It looks like, this was big, guys. This is before TikTok, This is what things were happening. So I'm curious if it's effective with no music. I don't know why they chose not to score it. We've looked at scenes where we've taken out the music and things become more serious, more intense, more scary sometimes. But your job is to score it. So this is, I think, the first time where I'm asking you guys to write music to a scene that has no music originally, and initially by the film director, where he said no music here. Don't know why. It's but he's the auteur. He can do whatever he wants. So are there rules? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to sound like it's from the 60s. It could be something today. Probably French, right? It looks very French. It doesn't have to be French, but probably European. Country music is not going to work for this. I don't know, possibly lyrics, but I feel like lyrics get in the way sometimes because they tell the story of what's happening. So that's why I want you guys to listen to the music aspects of it. So if you hear an accordion or something like that, like more the music and less so much of the message. We don't really need a message for scoring these things. So think about it, have fun with it, get it to be by Wednesday, and so by tomorrow, and then we'll see the results Friday. This is Francois Truffaut's Jules and Jim. A real pleasure sharing some of these gems with you. So thanks for watching, and tomorrow's going to be great. Hope so. Okay, see you later. Bye.